Welcome to the Simplicity of Wellness podcast. I'm your host, Amy White, board-certified holistic nutritionist, certified life coach, and women's weight loss specialist. This show is for real women living real lives, women who are tired of extremes, done with quick fixes, and ready to feel better in their body without turning their life upside down. Here, we focus on simple, sustainable strategies that work in your actual life. We talk about food, metabolism, mindset, and the quiet shifts that lead to real transformation. Let's get started. Welcome back to the Simplicity of Wellness podcast. I'm Amy, and today I want to share something a little different. A story, a real one, from a trip that changed the way I think about my work. I want to take you to Guatemala. Last month, I had the privilege of joining a medical mission team. Doctors, pharmacists, pediatricians, an ENT, a radiologist, a gynecologist, an orthopedic specialist, and mobility specialists. An incredible group of forward-thinking healthcare providers who travel to underserved communities to provide free care. I was invited on this trip in a non-professional capacity. I was there to help however I was needed, not as a nutritionist. I hadn't even considered that my background would be relevant. I don't speak Spanish, and honestly, I assumed the food culture would be so different from what I work with that my knowledge just wouldn't translate. I pictured Guatemala as a world of tortillas, rice, and beans, and I wasn't wrong. I just didn't fully understand what that meant yet. So there I am on day one, running the lab, blood glucose testing, hemoglobin testing, urine testing. That's my role for the week. A woman walks in with her lab slip. I glance down, and it says, blood glucose test and nutrition counseling. I just stared at it for a second. Nutrition counseling? With a translator? In a country I'd never visited? With foods I'd never cooked? In a language I don't speak? I took a breath, and then I thought, okay, I know how blood sugar works. I know how protein works. I know how the body responds to food. That doesn't change because we're in Guatemala. So we talked through a translator. We talked about what she was eating, how she was feeling, and what her numbers looked like. And here's what surprised me the most. She wasn't resistant. She was hungry for information. I thought she might look at me like I was out of my mind when I gently suggested cutting back on the tortillas and the rice and the juice. Instead, she leaned in. She wanted to know what to eat instead. She started brainstorming fish, chicken, eggs, beef, yogurt. The same list I build with my clients all over the United States. The same biology, a different kitchen. Over the course of the week, our team saw over 2,000 patients, 2,000 people. And from where I was sitting in the lab, running blood glucose test after blood glucose test, one thing became impossible to ignore. Type 2 diabetes and insulin resistance were the single most common thread across nearly every patient, regardless of what they came in for. Orthopedic pain, gynecological concerns, ear infections. It almost didn't matter what was on the intake form. The blood sugar numbers told a story underneath every diagnosis. During the entire week, I saw 3 adults with blood sugar in a healthy, normal range. 3. Everyone else, mid-200s to over 600. And almost every single person who saw their number, let's say it was 250, said the same thing. I haven't eaten yet today. Once I eat, it'll go down. This broke my heart a little because it shows exactly where the gap is. They knew their number mattered. They were paying attention. But what they didn't know, what nobody had ever explained to them, was that eating wasn't going to bring that 250 down. It was likely going to push it higher. When your fasting blood sugar is already elevated, your cells are already flooded with glucose. Adding more, especially from high carbohydrate foods, sends that number climbing even further. This isn't a knowledge problem they created. This is a knowledge gap that was never filled. The doctors on my team understood this, which is why, for the first time in their years of doing clinic, they finally had someone to send patients to for nutrition guidance. And by the end of the week, they asked me, would you come back next year and run 2 nutrition seminars a day, every day of the clinic? My answer? Absolutely yes. Now I want to share one more moment from that week because it perfectly captures something I run into all the time, and you might recognize this too. At some point during our stay, someone in our group, not a doctor, Just someone helping out, a genuinely kind person made a passing comment. Laughing a little, they said something like, can't we just give them a list of 4 foods they should eat and then that should do it, right? And I want to be really clear. This person wasn't being dismissive or unkind. It was a casual, offhand comment. They just didn't know what they didn't know. But it hit me because that comment, that idea that a do-don't food list is all anyone needs, is one of the most common misconceptions I encounter in my work. If a list of foods was enough to fix metabolic health, we wouldn't be in the middle of a global diabetes epidemic. The internet is full of food lists. Every diet plan ever created has one. People have been reading them for decades, and yet the doctors on this mission team understood something important. They knew a food list wasn't enough. They see it every single day. Patients who know what they're supposed to eat, but still can't get their blood sugar under control. Because the truth is, food isn't just about what goes in your mouth. It's about how it interacts with your hormones. It's about what your blood sugar does in the hours after a meal. It's about the stories you tell yourself about why you eat and what you eat. It's about the habits that feel automatic, the stress that drives choices, the energy that determines what you reach for at 3 p.m. Nutrition coaching isn't a list. It's a conversation. It's a process. It's understanding your biology so you can work with it instead of against it. What I took home from Guatemala, other than a deep respect for those people and their resilience, was confirmation of something I already believe. Metabolic dysfunction doesn't care what country you live in. It doesn't care what language you speak or what's on your plate. It follows the same biological rules everywhere. Tortillas or bread, juice or soda, rice or pasta, the specific food changes. The hormonal response doesn't. And the solution is the same too. More protein, less blood sugar volatility, understanding what your hunger is telling you, learning to read your body's signals instead of fighting them. The people I spoke with in that clinic, they were ready. The moment someone sat down with them, not to judge, not to hand them a pamphlet, but to actually explain what was happening in their bodies and what they could do about it, they engaged. They brainstormed. They left with tools, not just information. That's what coaching does. So if you've been doing everything right, following the food lists, cutting the carbs, reading the labels, and you're still struggling, hear this. Nothing has gone wrong. That is the expected outcome of a food list without context. You don't need more rules. You need understanding. You need to know what your body's doing and why, and what to actually do about it in a way that fits your real life. That's what we do together inside the Simplicity of Wellness. If you're tired of spinning your wheels and you're ready to actually understand your metabolism, click the link in the show notes. Transformation starts here. Schedule your free coaching call. We'll talk about where you are, where you want to be, and what's actually been getting in the way. You deserve more than a list, and your body's ready to show you what's possible. Thanks for listening, and I'll be back in the next episode. Thanks for listening to the Simplicity of Wellness podcast. If something in today's episode got you thinking, or if you're ready to stop guessing and start feeling better in your body, I'd love to invite you to schedule a free consult call. It's a chance to take a breath, look at what's working, what's not, and explore how you might simplify your path forward. No pressure, just a thoughtful conversation. You'll find the link in the show notes. I truly look forward to connecting. Until next time, be kind to yourself and keep going.